Thanks Displate for sponsoring this video.
Anger and frustration are quick to give power, but they also unbalance you.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and I want to talk about how Sabine could very likely fall to the dark side of the Force, and I'm going to explain why that is not necessarily a bad thing.
Wow, wait, really?
Yes, really. And there is a mountain of evidence that says not only is it possible that Sabine could end up being a villain in this show, but she could also be one of the strongest dark side users we have ever seen in Star Wars. And we're going to talk about how this could connect to the sequel trilogy in the Knights of Ren. Now, we have talked about a lot of potential plot twists in this show, like how Baylon could be a Knight of Ren, how Marrok could be Ezra, and how the people in the other galaxy might all be Night Sisters. Now, one of the reasons we thought Ezra might turn out to be Marrok is because the opening titles of the Star Wars shows always show the villains in red and the heroes in blue, and Marrok's helmet is blue, but Sabine's is red.
Yeah, of course they were all red in episode 1.
That is true, so I didn't think much of it until the training scene in episode 3. So this scene clearly connects to Luke's training in A New Hope.
I can't see. How am I supposed to fight?
And I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
But also, it's a reverse of when she trained with the blind Jedi, Kanan, in Rebels. So, small bit of backstory, or like a lot of backstory because the show is so deep in lore. So, like 1,000 years ago, a Mandalorian Jedi named Tar Vizsla created the Darksaber and then used it to conquer his home planet of Mandalore. So, to some Mandalorians, the saber is still a sign of divine rule over the planet. Now, during the Clone Wars, though, Maul started a Mandalorian civil war when he won the saber in combat. But Maul also has a strong connection to the people of Morgan Elsbeth, that is the Night Sisters of Dathomir. Maul's mother was the leader of the Night Sisters, and she used her dark side magic with a K to heal her son's wounds and use him as a weapon against Palpatine. And this is very important. Palpatine and the Night Sisters both use the dark side, but in totally different ways. We have seen Night Sisters like Merrin from Fallen Order use the dark side of the Force to do good things and help people. Remember that for later. So, near the end of the Clone Wars, Dooku killed off all the Night Sisters, and then Maul left his Darksaber on Dathomir, that is the Night Sisters' home planet. That's where it was found by Sabine, and in that same episode of Rebels, the spirit of Darth Maul's mom put a curse on Sabine and used her body to fight her friends.
You're unwise to re-enter our sanctum.
This could be important foreshadowing for what's to come on this show. So, Sabine now has the Darksaber, and she wanted to use it to inspire her people to rebel against the Empire. So Kanan, the Jedi Knight, had to teach her how to use the saber, and this is what brings us back to this episode. These two sequences of Sabine's training showcase her tendency toward the dark side.
Hey, so what's going on with all the posters today?
You know what, Doug? It means the world to me that you notice, because I have been trying really hard to spruce this place up with these new disc plates. See, disc plates are high quality metal posters. They're very durable. And the best part is they mount up with magnets, no drills or nails, so they're extremely easy to hang and switch out when we want a change of scenery. Like, I have always been a huge fan of movie posters. Something about walking into the video store when I was a kid and like just being surrounded by movies. And now, as an adult, when I find a poster I think is special, I want to hang something that's high quality. Like, I love this print from Batman the Animated Series. It's just stunning. This is why Displate is one of my favorite sponsors on the channel, and I am so happy they're sponsoring this video. Displate has posters that are officially licensed by Marvel, DC, Star Trek, and of course, Star Wars. And there are a ton of posters on the site, more than 1.4 million.
Wow, but however will I choose?
Well, if you hit the link in the description, you'll see my profile where I've curated some of my favorite posters on the site. Everything ranging from Marvel, Star Wars, to just movie posters I think are awesome. And in the Ahsoka designs, I really liked this one where she is reimagined in a dojo, and the Clone Wars helmet of her special unit to retake Mandalore. And anytime I have to buy a gift for a movie fan, Displate is always the first place I look. And these new Lumino designs, which add an ultra-thin layer of OLED beneath the print. And look, it even lights up. So we are offering ScreenCrush fans a special discount. If you click the link in the description, you get your first 1 to 2 disc plates for 20% off. 3 or more disc plates are 30% off. Now, back to what I was saying. So Kanan spent several training sessions just manhandling Sabine. She didn't stand a chance against him or Ezra. But then her fellow Mandalorian, Fenn Rau, encouraged her to fight him using Mandalorian techniques.
All designed to combat the abilities of the Jedi.
And that worked. Now, the Mandalorians are the opposite of Jedi in many ways. They're passionate warriors who think of offense before defense. This is one of the reasons Hu Ying says,
Historically, there have been very few Mandalorians who ever became a Jedi.
So the Darksaber is like a unique lightsaber because, as Kanan explains it,
your thoughts, your actions, they become energy. They flow through the crystal as well and become a part of the blade.
This is why Din Djarin had such a hard time lifting the saber, because he was conflicted about using it. But Bo-Katan never doubted that she was ready to rule Mandalore, and she always wielded the saber with ease. But then, Sabine starts to do very well in her duel against Kanan when she uses her emotions.
Everything I did was for family! For Mandalore!
Her fighting style looks distinctly Sith, powered by emotion, burdened by guilt, aggressive, and overwhelming enemies with her power. And she tries to do the same thing against Ahsoka in their duel. But Kanan, despite being equally aggressive in his argument, is redirecting, using Sabine's aggression against her, like a Jedi. Remember, Yoda said,
"A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack."
But Sabine can only win once she taps into her emotions and lets it out. This is very similar to Anakin, who fell to the dark side after suppressing his emotions for too long, giving into rage and the power of the dark side. So to understand how Sabine could fall to the dark side, we have to actually understand what the hell the dark side is and the dogma of the Jedi Knights. But first, I want to thank all of you guys for supporting this channel. It really means a lot to me.
Whereas I truly despise everyone.
That's true. He really doesn't like most of you. But right now, you're okay.
Yeah, that one's awesome. I like that one.
Now, a lot of you know this already, but we have some awesome new Ahsoka-inspired merch at our new merch store, featuring designs that are made by the ScreenCrush team. Our new shirts are the Hello There, The Apprentice Lives, and my personal favorite, the Prequel Apologist, Thank You George. That is a companion to our crowd favorite Original Trilogy tee, and of course we have the Somehow Palpatine Returned, Doug as a Child, and Doug in lots of other fun shirts.
Don't buy any of this capitalism.
And we are running a 10% off sale through Labor Day to celebrate the store launch, so get them while you can. Although honestly, we'll probably just start like another sale soon, so get them whenever you want. Thanks again for your support. So let's talk about the dark and light sides of the Force.
The dark side is evil and the light side is good. The end.
That's actually not true. The Last Jedi actually does a great job of spelling out these two sides of the Force.
Life, death, and decay.
And between it all,
Balance. A force.
and inside you,
That same force.
The light side is life and the dark side is death, but the galaxy needs both to form a symbiotic circle, to form balance. In fact, our old friend of the channel, Dodd Seitz, made a great TikTok explaining this.
Before the Jedi and the Bendu Jedi before them defined different sides of the Force with morality as a light and dark side, the Force was just simply a force of nature that existed throughout the cosmos.
And by the way, guys, subscribe to our TikTok and Instagram because we're always posting new videos that we don't do here on the channel. Now, so what Dodd is saying in his TikTok is that Force users once used all sides of the Force. In the old Legends canon, a group called the Jedi Bendu founded the Jedi Order, but afterwards they decided to label these sides of the Force as good and evil, assigning morality to a force of nature, which is ridiculous. It would be like saying that fire is inherently evil when yes, fire destroys things in nature, but it also causes regrowth. Now, in Star Wars Rebels, we met a being called the Bendu who has a wider view of the Force.
Jedi and Sith wield the Ashlar and Bogan, the light and the dark.
I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu.
Originally, all Force users used both sides of the Force. We even see this in the first Jedi Temple. The image of the Prime Jedi, the first Jedi, is composed of equally white and black stones. But the dark side of the Force is also extremely dangerous, and human emotions often cause it to be abused and used for evil. The Sith were created when a rogue Jedi was expelled from the Order because he wanted to use all the capacities of the Force, similar to Palpatine's pitch to Anakin.
You must embrace a larger view of the Force.
But then this first Sith committed 100% to the dark side and used it solely to gain power for his or herself. Now, while the dark side is not inherently evil, it's kind of like a drug and it becomes addictive once it's used. That thirst for power tends to lead people to becoming bad. Yoda even confirmed this.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. Quicker, busier, more seductive.
But in reality, the only difference between the dark and light side of the Force is simply how the Force is accessed. And this is very important. For the Jedi, the Force is accessed through stillness. It is inspired by Tai Chi.
Who's Tai Chi?
Tai Chi is not a who, it's a what. It is a mind-body exercise that combines breathing, meditation, and motion. And this is why the most powerful Jedi are often about redirecting energy. Grogu protecting people from fire, Yoda redirecting Force lightning, Rey moving the energy of the Force into others to heal them. But the most important example is how Kanan fights Sabine. He redirects her energy and her blows. Ahsoka does the same thing, using Sabine's forward momentum against her to unbalance her. Whereas dark side users harness the Force with passion and conviction. The power comes from unleashing their emotions. Dark side users are all about creating or destroying energy. There's Force lightning, Force choking. Even Kylo Ren holds blaster bolts in place instead of redirecting them. And this is why the Emperor wanted Luke to lose his temper.
Your hate has made you powerful. Now, fulfill your destiny.
because once you tap into your passions for your power, the dark side of the Force becomes addictive, like a drug. Now, just like how people have different talents in the real world, Force users are more prone to be talented in different sides of the Force. For instance, Ben Solo was a natural dark side user because of how he channeled his emotions.
You went straight to the dark, and you didn't even try to stop yourself. I've seen this raw strength only once before, in Ben Solo.
He used the Force as a conduit for his passions. Similarly, Anakin was always a passionate person. He felt attachment to his mother, to Padme, and he was always prone to jealousy and rage.
It's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous. He's holding me back.
Whereas Obi-Wan and Yoda were strong because of their stillness and their moral resolve. Probably the best visual example of this dichotomy is the moments leading up to Qui-Gon Jinn's death. The Jedi meditates, while Maul prowls like a lion in a cage, waiting to unleash his emotions. So now, let's apply this to Sabine. She always fought best when she was having fits of rage, like a dark side user.
I spoke out! I spoke out to save them! To save everyone!
This is why she would be a strong dark side user. The dark side is harnessed by releasing these repressed emotions. And Sabine had a troubled home life, family guilt, resentment. She's a space punk with checkered pauldrons. And I think it's possible that Ahsoka sensed that Sabine was strong in the dark side. And this could be why she abandoned her to begin with. And after she abandoned Sabine, she refused to take on Grogu as an apprentice.
You cannot train him.
She came back to Sabine, so why?
What was the reason? What was the reason?
Maybe because she feels guilty for walking away from Anakin.
Anakin never got to finish my training. Before the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him.
Maybe she blames Anakin's fall on herself, and she wants to make sure that Sabine doesn't suffer the same fate. In other words, she just can't quit Sabine. But also, Sabine's Mandalorian upbringing means that she would be a more natural dark side user. I mean, look at the most famous Mandalorian Jedi, Tar Vizsla. He refused the Jedi Code of Detachment. He left the Order, led his clan, was tied to his family, had many children, and he used the Force to conquer his planet. Now, we've talked in videos in the past about how the dark side of the Force actually cursed the Darksaber, and how Tar Vizsla's clan, Clan Vizsla, was nearly destroyed by a dark side user, Darth Maul. And this gets very exciting because remember, Sabine found the Darksaber in the same episode where she was cursed by Night Sister magic. So we have seen objects retain like after images of the Force called Force echoes. Cal Kestis and Ahsoka can sense these echoes. And when Rey touches Anakin's saber, she gets the entire history of the Skywalker family. Oh, the number of times I watched that sequence frame by frame. So objects can be imbued with the Force. So what if the Darksaber was imbued with the dark side of the Force? And what if it had a kind of impression of Sabine? Like a reverse Force echo, like it's the One Ring calling out to somebody who's susceptible to it, because the Darksaber could sense the dark side within her. So now we've got this lore connecting the Darksaber to Darth Maul, the Night Sisters, the Dark Side, and the Mandalorians. But these new Star Wars shows are also all about setting up the rise of the First Order and explaining the unexplained events of the sequel trilogy.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
And I think that Sabine would be a perfect candidate for the Knights of Ren.
Wait, what's the Knights of Ren again?
Well, that was the group that Kylo Ren was leading in The Rise of Skywalker, and they are the most underused and badass part of the Star Wars canon. So we recently talked about how Baylon and Shin Hati could be in the Knights of Ren, where we also explained the history of this group. Here's the TLDR. They're dark side using space Vikings who follow a leader called the Ren, and you become the Ren by killing the previous Ren. We actually see Ben Solo do this in the comics. Now, the Knights of Ren are not Sith. Like the Night Sisters, they use the dark side of the Force, but they do not belong to the Sith Order. In fact, anybody can become a Knight of Ren. You can even have low proficiency with the Force, like Sabine.
The Jedi Order would not have accepted her. She is not an acceptable candidate.
Remember, after Darth Maul's Mandalorian forces were defeated at the end of the Clone Wars, they scattered. Some of them served the Empire. Others, like maybe the Armorer, formed their own Mandalorian coverts, while many others became bounty hunters. And here is where I want to note that after Sabine dropped out of the Imperial Academy, she became a bounty hunter, because Mandalorians are used to using their strength to earn a living. I would wager that Darth Maul loyalists would have also gone off to join the Knights of Ren. After all, they're basically like dark side Mandalorians. And this is where we're gonna get wild.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
We don't actually know when the Knights of Ren were formed. We just know that they were active between The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi because they appear in the comics. But we do know that the Night of 1,000 Tears, the destruction of Mandalore, happened between 1 BBY and 9 ABY. And we know that the original Ren was covered in scars, maybe from the Night of 1,000 Tears.
Wait, are you saying that the Knights of Ren might have been founded by a Mandalorian?
Not just any Mandalorian. What if the founder of the Knights of Ren was actually Sabine's brother Tristan, and their name, Ren, derived from his family name, Ren with a W?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's kind of a stretch. You're just saying that because their names are alike.
No. This actually fits in perfectly with the history of Clan Ren. During the Clone Wars, Clan Ren aligned themselves with Death Watch to overthrow the pacifist government on Mandalore. And then Ursa Ren swore loyalty to Bo-Katan and fought against Darth Maul. But then they sided with the Empire. And also, Clan Ren are really important power players in Mandalorian politics. They're old friends with Bo-Katan, and they were not in The Mandalorian Season 3. And the clan's colors, white and gold, have been all over the bad guys in Ahsoka. There's the Starship in Episode 3, Morgan's ship, Shin wears all white, and Baron has gold accents on his wrists.
Wait, so what are you saying?
I am saying that Sabine's entire family might have been killed in the Night of a Thousand Tears, and that's why Clan Ren did not help Bo-Katan retake Mandalore in The Mandalorian Season 3. And what if the only survivors of Clan Ren were Sabine and Tristan? Sabine stayed with the Rebel Alliance, while Tristan went off to form the Knights of Ren, and he dropped the W as a symbolic gesture because he got Batmaned and lost his family. So this would have been Tristan's Ben Solo moment where he turns to the dark side.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, look, I admit, the theory's way out there, but imagine if Marrok took off his helmet and it's been Sabine's brother this whole time. That is one of the few reveals that would be an actual gut punch to the viewers. And I know this is weird, but Dave Filoni makes up some weird stuff, man. The final arc of Rebels featured time travel and hyperspace traveling wolves. Dave Filoni is a loose cannon. But the other reason I think Sabine might fall to the dark side is because it perfectly lines up with Ahsoka's story. The show is called Ahsoka, after all. See, we were thinking about Freddie Prinze Jr.'s rant, where he said that Darth Maul was like Sisyphus, this person who is always condemned to labor against the will of nature, and he will always lose. But he has to keep trying. It's in his nature. And Ahsoka is like another Sisyphus, or even the biblical Job. No matter how many times she does the right thing, and no matter how much of a badass she is, Ahsoka can never win. She walks away from the Jedi Order, causing Anakin to fall. She rejoins the Republic to lead the clone troopers, but then she has to kill them all afterwards. She liberates Mandalore from Maul just so it can be taken over by the Empire. She forms the Rebellion, but loses Ezra. Hell, the whole Rebel Alliance ended up losing to the First Order. She brought Grogu to Luke, and then Grogu left Luke. She helped Luke found his temple, and we know what happened next. So, having Ahsoka's apprentice also fall to the dark side would be kind of fitting for her character. And by the way, I don't think that Sabine would ever join or rebuild the Empire or Thrawn, but I could see her running away from everything to join the Knights of Ren. After all, she has a history of running away from her problems. She ran away from the Imperial Academy, she ran away from her family, and she begins this series running away. But I want to circle back to something important that we said at the top. I think it's possible that Sabine learns to use the dark side because it's more natural for her, but she will not fall to the dark side. Remember, using the dark side does not necessarily make you evil, but it does start you on a path to becoming evil. It can be the difference between starting a campfire or starting a forest fire. See, Baylon Skull appears to use the dark side, but I wouldn't say he's evil. He's even kind of compassionate.
To kill her would be a shame. There are so few Jedi left.
And the Night Sisters use dark magic, and Merrin from Fallen Order is a hero. We've also seen Jedi tap into the dark side and come back from the edge, like Elzar Mann in the High Republic, Saren Cal in Fallen Order, and of course, Ezra.
Ezra, no!
And we have seen that light side users are not always good. There's Bode in Jedi Survivor, Pong Krell in the Clone Wars. He was the Jedi who treated these clones like cannon fodder. So why can't we have good people who use the dark side in a controlled, balanced way? Kylo Ren was not full-on evil in The Last Jedi. He was a conflicted man. So if Sabine is a natural dark side user, that doesn't necessarily make her evil. Like Razor, the Red Lantern.
Wait, who?
Well, in DC Comics, the Red Lanterns are this brutal group of warriors, but one of them, Razor, eventually uses his passions to benefit others. And this brings us back to Ahsoka Tano, who is a walking contradiction. Ahsoka shows us that a Jedi can be passionate while also still showing compassion. She swore off detachments, but her life is defined by her attachments and friendships to others. She's walked away from 2 Jedi orders to better follow the will of the Force. Ahsoka is essentially defined by balance. So, if anybody can teach Sabine to use the dark side for good, it's Ahsoka Tano. And just a reminder, everyone, click our link below and use the code ScreenCrush for a special discount on your displays. So, do you think that Sabine could be a dark side user without falling to the dark side? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.